Welcome to Lesson 5, Importing Terms and Relationships. In this lesson you will learn how to format your text file, how to analyze your text file for errors, how to add user-defined note fields to your vocabulary, and how to import your text file. Importing a file is typically done in a new blank thesaurus, so create a new thesaurus file first. Go up to File, New Thesaurus, give it a name, Imported Thesaurus, save. I'm not going to define a description yet. Now the new blank thesaurus has been created. As explained in Lesson 1, you can add multiple terms with their relationships in the quick data entry screen, but if you have a complete thesaurus or taxonomy you wish to import, it's better to use the import feature. The format of the thesaurus or taxonomy data in an import file is the same as should be used in the quick data entry. So let's look at that under Term, Quick Data Entry. See this box here, See Example. So the import file must have the following characteristics. It must be a plain text file. Each term must be followed by its relationships, one term per line, and one relationship per line. This also includes notes and categories, although they're not in this sample file. Each relationship must have the label of the relationship with a colon. Continuation lines for notes or comments fields, which could be long, there aren't any here, must be indented at least one blank space. You must also leave a blank line between the text of the next term block, a term and its relationships. Okay, let's close this. Alright, to get a file to import, switching to my web browser, I found a thesaurus on the web in text format that I can use. The Thesaurus of Graphic Materials from the Library of Congress. So from the left I choose here to download a text file, and this is what it looks like. It looks like it meets the MultiTes import requirements, so I'll use it. Now my browser didn't actually download it. As you see, I'm still on the web, so I'll just copy and paste it to a notepad file. That might take a little time because it's quite large. And then I'll save this to my MultiTes Pro data folder as TGM import text. Okay, there we have it. I think I noticed something at the top I wanted to delete. Yeah, we don't need the date and time when it was created. Alright, looking at this, we see some additional fields that are not default in MultiTes. I recognize SN as scope note, UF used for a broader term, related term, maybe we'll find some, and TNR, that's term record number, that's also pretty standard, but some of these others are not. Rather than scan through the entire file, MultiTes has a feature. Let's go back to MultiTes. Under File, Analyze Import File. Now this was the file I just created, and I'll open that, and it generates a file analysis. Okay, there's some things that are not recognized, but if I scroll down to the bottom, what's important here is to see the codes not found. So these are what they are. Of course, I don't know what they stand for, but let me go back to that web page here. Fields in term records for the Thesaurus of Graphic Materials. Aha! We can now see what these stand for. CN is a notes field, HN is a notes field, FUN facet, that it could be a notes field, and then there's some others here that refer to MARC records. Okay, this is good to know because I need to define these fields. So back to MultiTes. So before importing this file, I need to define the additional fields so that they import correctly. Any custom defined relationships, categories, or notes in a thesaurus or taxonomy to be imported need to be defined in the MultiTes thesaurus file prior to importing. Now I actually don't care about those mark record category data, so I'm only going to define the notes. Now if you remember, define relationships. Notes are not actually relationships, but they are treated like, managed the same way with relationships. The default is a scope note, and we have category. So I'm going to add a new one, and the type is based on note. Those other two fields disappeared because those were for reciprocal relationships, and since a note is not actually a relationship, it doesn't have a reciprocal. Now I can create them. If I remember what they were, we had CN, which was catalogers note. I want to add another. HN was history note. Add another. FUN was former usage note. And finally, facet, which sounds like it could be a category, but we're just going to treat it as a note. Alright, so we've got our new customized note fields added. Close that. Now we are ready to import the file. So File menu, then Import. This is the file I just created. Open. It's almost done. Okay, great. No errors reported. Click, and there it is. So we see we got various notes here. No categories. Our standard relationships. We have non-preferred terms and preferred terms. We can browse this a little bit. It's interesting what it did. Those other fields are subtypes of a note, so I'm glad I didn't really deal with them. They got imported, those mark record information anyway. So we can see broader terms and jump around. If you remember, terms that are in bold are top terms. Let's do a top term report here just to get a better idea what we've imported. Interesting. Lots of things under objects, and then there are a few other types of things. Well, we've successfully imported a large thesaurus, so that brings us to the end of lesson 5.